should I call you, by the way?
Oh, my name is
Andre?
Andre, but my name
Andre,
you can
okay.
go by Wax, but my name is Andre.
So Wax,
Or
okay,
Dre.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
Wax.
Whatever you want me to
You just
call
call
you.
me
Wax
Wax. I like
works
Wax. I think Wax Image works well for my game name because we're
very well.
wizards,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah,
it's not
okay.
really me; it's a copy of me.
Just like Matches Malone.
Exactly. No point in getting down in the minutia. But
Yeah, exactly.
um, so I was reviewing your deck, and I noticed a couple changes different from the other Gruuls. First off, lots of Gruuls don't have the brush fire elemental, and I don't understand why. So what made you put it in there when a lot of other ones don't?
Well, that's funny to hear because the Brushfire Elemental is a pretty good card. So what I think it's very good. It is like this the one card that we had in the what's it called again? The set the Guilds of Ravnica. There was this
Yep.
Gruul colored card with when you put it in, either it gets haste or a +1/+1
Rhythm
counter,
of the
and it was a
Wild,
2/2.
Riot.
No, 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 the creature, the kobold, the goblin. I forgot the name.
Oh yes, yes.
The
Oh, yeah, I know a
riot
goblin.
goblin.
Yeah.
I checked the name real quick. So I like to play Gruul back then as well. So here it is. Here he is. I found him immediately. So the name is the Zurta Goblin.
Yes.
Exactly. It was a Goblin Berserker, and
Mm-hmm.
he had Riot, and it was just so good. I mean, it's a haste creature. I think Gruul profits very much from haste creatures. And yeah, you also want to play a Lance, and I think having a creature that's unblockable by creatures with power 2 or less is pretty good because almost no white deck can stand in your way because most of their cards are weenies. So I think putting in a Brushfire Elemental is pretty good. And yeah, if you have a turn where you have a Brushfire Elemental into play with Passage, you have a 5/5 on the board. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. So it's almost like a questing beast without the extra steps, but just a little bit stronger. And if you say you're going Brushfire Elemental into Brushfire Elemental and Fabled Passage, you're looking at 10 damage just for free. I mean,
Off
that's
the
just
top.
insane. And the landfall is just such a good mechanic. So I think for this deck, it is pretty good. Same as with the Kazanu Mammoth. I
Right.
think the
I see.
Kazanu Mammoth
Yep.
is also pretty underappreciated card. Maybe if I think the thing is maybe it doesn't have trample. That's the only thing that maybe is missing from this card. But I
That would
think it
make
is
it too. That
fair.
would make it mythic and probably
Yeah, yeah,
OP,
exactly,
and it would get
exactly.
banned.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think if it had trample, it would be absolutely broken. But just the same as with the Brushfire Elemental, the Xana Mammoth is so important in this deck because you put it down on turn 3, on turn 4 you play a Fabled Passage, it becomes a 5/5 to crack the passage, it becomes a 7/7, you play your Great Hench for 2
Mm.
mana,
Mm-hmm.
that means it pays for itself. So you have a free Great Hench. And then as soon as you can put an Embercleave on that bad boy,
Oh,
it will be
nasty.
an 8/8 with trample and double strike. So that is insane. That is why, if I can, I always go Mammoth turn 3 instead of Lovestruck Beast, because the possibility to have a 7/7 with Embercleave is just totally insane. I mean, if you don't have the Mammoth, Lovestruck Beast is also pretty good
Mm-hmm.
on turn 3, because on turn 4 you can still play the Great Hench for
Yep.
4 mana. But having a Great Hench for 2 mana, that is just insanity. That's literally insanity. I mean,
I
it
have
is
a
such a good card.
I
It
have a
is such a good
confession.
card.
I use I use the Great Hinge to draw. So when I use my Fire Prophecy, because I always end up with like two Great Hinges, I always do. So I take my Fire Prophecies and I'll use my Fire Prophecy and I'll cycle the Great Hinge. I've only used it out of all these games. I might have used it twice. Not
But it
because
is it is a pretty good card. I mean, you draw a lot of cards for each creature that gets in, and sometimes it just snowballs so hard. So
mhm,
you put down a Great Hench, but I totally get it. I mean, in the early game, it's important to have those cards that you can rely on to build up your board.
right.
And maybe if I would have to choose between, for example, a Great Hench or a Goldspan Dragon, I would take the Goldspan Dragon any
Right.
day.
Well, I know you would.
Even the
You
questing
have
piece
one in your
is,
backyard.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
You feed it your victim's tears.
Exactly. That is why he's so efficient. No, the Goldspan Dragon is just like the
Oh,
best card out of Kaldheim for this build. It is my absolutely favorite card in the set. It is just so freaking good. I mean, it is a 4/4 with haste for 5. Okay, you can say okay, that's a bit costly, but the moment you attack in, it just becomes a
right.
3/3. 3 cost for 5.
Yeah, and it gives you another
Instead of
mana.
5 cost, it becomes a 3 cost. It pays for itself 2/3 of the price. If you can attack in with it twice, you get almost all of your mana back. It is
Yep.
just so good. And let's say you have three creatures on the field, you put down the Gold Spend
It's
Dragon,
over.
you even get an Ember Key for it.
Yeah.
So that is
Oh,
just insanity. That is just insanity. Let's say you have a real good curve, you go Brushfire into Mammoth, into Questing Beast, and
yep.
then turn 5, you play your Gold Spend
It's
Dragon.
over.
That's GG. That's GG. I mean, he gets in for 10 in the air. Almost nobody can stop it. That is just so good.
Now I've
And
used
yeah, but the
I
Fire
use
Prophecy is also pretty good. I
yes.
thought about a lot of other cards, but sometimes you get stuck on land a little bit with this deck. I don't know why, even though it only has 24 lands with the Shutter Skull
Right.
smashing. But still, because the Mammoth, you can see it as a land in the early game. It
Hmm.
might be important if you don't draw a second land on turn two, maybe, or a third land on turn two. Maybe you want to put down the Mammoth as land. But usually I try to see it as a creature. And with the 24 lands, even if you count in the Shutter Skull smashing as the 24 lands, you still kind of want to get rid of land sometimes. So the
Right.
Fire Prophecy is even better than some other cards.
I
And
use this.
yeah,
I use the Shatter Skull Smashing for land more often than I use the Shatter Skull Smashing for anything else. Um,
exactly. In this deck, it is really good. I mean, in the end game, it is pretty good as a Shadow Spell smashing itself, but
hmm
in the early game, it is pretty good as a land because most of your creatures are big enough, even the Bone Crusher Giant, to surpass almost everything.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, you have to pay 3 mana to deal 1 damage. That's not too good. So in the late game, it is real good because as soon as you're on 6 or 7 lands, you can get rid of something big. That is really good. But it targets Planeswalkers,
Yep.
which could be a problem in this deck. But so yeah, I think the Shadow Spell Smashing is pretty good as a land more than
Planeswalkers right here.
yeah, 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 yeah. The Questing Beast is an absolute beast, especially Questing Beast with an Ember Cleave.
Oh, that is dirty
Because
pool.
yeah,
That
that is so dirty.
dirty pool. Now I use my questing beast as now. This might make you upset. I use it for cannon fodder. Um, I'm more of a
It is pretty good as cannon fodder.
I'm a control player by nature, right? I like to hit you. I do not want you to hit me. Like if you know boxing, right? The sweet science.
Yeah,
So the whole entire point is to hit and not get hit. So that's how I look at Magic. So if I put Questing Beast out, if you have 4 mana, I have 4 mana, you have to deal with my Questing Beast or it's going to hit you because it already hit you when it came out. So it's either going to hit you again or you have to spend your mana to kill it. And
exactly.
whatever you spend to kill it, you can't spend to hit me.
Exactly. No, no, that's just pure logic. I mean, that's a very good way to see it. And that is also why there's only two of them in here, because I think most of the damage you want to do as early as possible
hmm
and like in the early to mid game. So I think turn three, maximum turn four is where you should also already be able to see if you're going to win.
Yep.
And if you rely on drawing cards, this deck gets a little bit hard to play, but that is why we have the top end with the Goldspan Dragon. And that is also why I have this version with the Akron War, because sometimes the only thing that can stop you is not having trample on your creatures, which is a
Oh,
pretty big part of green. But as we're using only cheap creatures, there's
right.
no trample on the creatures. And that is why the Akron War is so good. So let's say that your opponent has like a Question Beast himself, maybe,
hmm
that you can't surpass. If you would attack in, you would lose your creature. But just sealing it with your Akron War because it has haste, it just makes your board so much more dangerous. And they have to attack in the second turn. So even if they attack in, you just block with the creature that you just stole. And then all of the creatures will die because, let's be honest, almost nobody has vigilance nowadays. So yeah, that is pretty good. But as
Right.
I said, the Questing Beast is pretty good also if you have the Emerald Cleave, because I mean, you know that, but as soon as something has Death Touch and Trample, 1 damage is enough to
One
kill the
damage is
creature.
enough.
Yeah, and that is so good with the first strike and everything. That is just totally busted.
It is.
So Questing Beast plus Ember Cleave,
Is mean.
just whoever play tested this was a meanie. Let's just put it like that.
Well,
So yeah, those are the cards that are very important in my eyes: are the Brushfire, the Mammoth, and the Goldspan Dragon. All the
see
rest, and yeah. So
now.
these are the three where I think that those win you the game.
Um.
The rest is control, like the Bone Crusher Giant is
Yep.
pretty controlly.
Yes.
But most of
Oh.
the times, turn two, you want to put down your Brushfire Elemental.
Yep.
Unless maybe you're going second and you see that the opponent's playing red,
Oh.
maybe don't put down your Brushfire Elemental on turn
Mm-mm.
two because they could just
They kill it.
like lightning strike it, kill it immediately. So it is always good to have like a land with the Brushfire Elemental. So yeah, but still. putting down a brush for elemental on turn 2 just feels good. I mean,
Yeah, I have I
let's be
found
honest.
I have found that with this deck, my preferred game ender is, and it normally most of the times I played with this, I did quite a bit. My game ender, I thought it would be Questing Beast. It wasn't. My game ender was right here. Was the Love Struck Beast. I was
It
always
is
able to
pretty
keep my
good.
1/1, right? You put Questing Beast out, and if it's out there with your Love Struck Beast, right?
It is just over,
They
man.
have to they
I
have
mean,
to
a
pick one to
5/5
kill.
for
They
three
have to pick
mana.
one, right? Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, and most of the time they kill the questing because questing is vicious,
yeah,
right? So
exactly.
you
It
kill the one that
has
has
three
vigilance,
heads.
right? And then I just put the Ember Cleave on the Love Struck. Ember Cleave is my game ender. I don't care. I can put on anything. I put it on the Brushfire Elemental in one.
I finished the game by stealing someone's ruin crab
Yep.
and putting the amber cleave on the ruin crab. That was the most rewarding game I ever had. But to be honest, the Lovestruck Beast is also so good because of the Brushfire Elemental and the Edgar Innkeeper. Not only does the Edgar Innkeeper draw you a lot of cards with this deck because you have the Bone Crusher Giant and Lovestruck Beast, it is just such a good draw enabler. But if somebody kills your 1/1, and not the Lost Rock Beast, because I don't know why they would do it, but maybe they do. They kill your 1/1. Maybe they have like an Elspeth's Nightmare where they don't can only kill a two power creature with it,
Mm-hmm.
and you just put down maybe another Lovestruck Beast token or the Edgar Innkeeper, and then you can attack in with the Lovestruck Beast. That is so good. That is so good.
Now, as
Also, a
far
very important card in here, to be honest, is the Inscription of Abundance because
yes.
there's a lot of Heartless Act players. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are using Heartless Act. And
I'm
to be
one.
able to ambush those with the 1/1 counters, yeah, me too. It's just such a good card. I mean, it is really bad if you're up against a counter player like that has counters to put on creatures like the
Mm-hmm.
Inscription of Abundance or whatever. Or if they bring back something with the Rogue stack that always brings back the creatures with Death Touch and a Menace counter on it,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes bad. But I mean, a 2 mana kill spell that kills even another Gargaroth,
Yeah.
that's just perfectly awesome. And yeah, this one is just so good because even if you only spend the 2 mana and you choose the first mode that puts 2/1 counters on the creature,
Yep.
it just fizzles the Heartless Act. That is just so good. And in the end game, also this is so good. Let's just say you attack in with the Goldspan Dragon,
Mm-hmm.
and you have all the other creatures. They only have one blocker. You choose one of your creatures that's big enough to remove the blocker.
Yep.
You attack in with the Goldspan Dragon, target your big creature and the other creature, make them fight. Your big creature still
Yep.
survives, but you can get through before they declare blockers. That is just so good. I wish I
Yeah.
could have 80 cards in this deck because 4 Inscription of Abundance would be so sweet, 4 Ember
It
Cleaves,
would
but
be.
yeah, it's not a Yorion deck. Maybe one day. Yorion Gruul, who knows?
I that night that would be nasty.
Yeah, I don't even think it would work.
It would be evil if you could get it. No,
Yeah,
because you need everything to be like below. No, you just need 80 cards.
yeah, just need 80 cards at least. But I think it is just in this deck, consistency is key. So
Right.
what really kills you is like if you're in the mid to late game, you still didn't win, and your opponent is like about to find the rhythm to come back into the game, and you draw like 3 or 4 lands in a row.
You're over.
That is just heartbreaking, man. You can still win. I mean, sometimes I drew 3 or 4 lands in a row. I had a great hand out. Then I played one creature. The great hand gave me another one. I played
Mm-hmm.
another creature. And with all the lands you draw, you have so much mana that you can just play them all. So yeah, it can also be very good. But normally with this deck, you draw enough cards. You have the Edgar Innkeeper, the Edgewall Innkeeper. Sorry, I always call him Edgar. You have the Edgewall Innkeeper.
Yep.
You have the Great Hand to draw cards. So that is really good. And I mean, you have 8 cards that make you draw from the Edgewall
Yes.
Innkeeper. So that is pretty good. And with the Great Hand, each creature that you put out draws your card. That
Gets
is
a
just so
plus
good.
one. Now,
And yeah, if you put down your Goldspan Dragon, it becomes a 5/5. So good.
how do you
So
deal
freaking
with the
good.
Great Hinge and the uh, Love Struck Beast because the Great Hinge stops your one run and that makes all those two twos, right? I mean, unless you can keep your
Well,
1/1
yeah,
alive that long, how do
yeah,
you
yeah, that is true.
how do you
Well, that is like a downside. But if let's say the only downside here with the Great Hand is really that you put down your edge rolling keeper, your brush elemental, those become tutus.
right?
Your Lost Rock Beast may not be able to attack in,
It can
but
block.
you're still drawing cards and you still have a big blocker on the board.
Yes.
And if you're up against maybe like an aggressive deck, like a mono red deck, a Lovestruck Beast on the field is so good. If
That's
they
how I
don't
beat
have
mine
their
already.
annex out, yeah, exactly. Just put down the Lovestruck Beast as fast as possible. Even if they kill the 1/1, they can't attack it anymore until they draw their Phoenix or Ghostman Dragon. That is just so good.
Yeah,
Almost no one plays the Chrome War anymore, so you don't even have to fear that they steal it. Because if they steal the Chrome War in the mono red deck, that's the Lost Sword Beast with the Chrome War, that's pretty heartbreaking because they have all these 1/1s. They have like the Knight, they have the Goblin, the 1/1, they have so many 1/1s.
hmm
Even if their Annex creates a token, they have a 1/1, so that is pretty good. That's also a card that someone could consider putting into this deck. Um, but I really wouldn't know what to exchange. Maybe I would take out two Chrome Wars. That is like an idea that I had, and put in the annex, because that way you can always make sure to have a 1/1 for the Lost Sword piece, but that's the only reason.
right.
So the
Well,
rest of the deck is pretty good because you have more green than red in here.
yes.
So it is really hard to have your annex to be more than a 2/2 or maybe a 3/3. So yeah,
Right,
maybe
because
it's not the best idea.
I saw because I like I use the love struck. The love struck, like it says, my ender. If I don't
Yeah,
get this right, when I did get this, and I realized that it turned, I couldn't attack with the love struck. Right, I'm like, ooh, I got my great hinge out. Let's see what it can do. I got all excited and I cast. And so then I finally got a love struck. I'm like, ooh, I got 6 mana. Let's see what I can do. So I cast a one, right, and I'm like, oh, okay. Wait, why is it a two?
oh yeah, but it doesn't work for tokens, so it's only non-token
It's only nine
creatures.
tokens, right?
Yeah. So
They turned
whenever
this
you
into the
play,
two. So I was sitting there, and my 1/1 was I didn't have. I had my this was a two. I had no 1/1s, but I used the love struck just to block everything, and then just having to
exactly.
kill it, and that killed that wasted their man. And I was like, huh, oh well, questing beast, and then that was a five, and I hit him once, and then they drew dead, I think, and then I was like, I'm attack, Ember Cleave, game over. Um,
Exactly. I mean, that's 12 damage from one creature.
yeah.
That is so good, even if they're able to block it. But as I said, the favorite thing to do is just putting the Evercleave on the Questing Beast.
Mm-hmm.
But the Questing Beast is not too important in this deck.
Mm-mm.
Also, when Rogues was more relevant, I mean, there's still people playing Rogues, so get me wrong. There's still a lot of people playing Rogues. Just the same old deck. There's not too much you have to change. It's still a pretty good deck. Um, But yeah, having the ooze, the scavenging ooze is
Yeah,
also a pretty good card in here.
yeah, I thought
But
about
yeah,
that. A lot of the top Gruul on MTG Goldfish, a lot of the top Gruul decks have the Scavenging Ooze, and I like the Scavenging Ooze. Don't get me wrong, but it die. All right, granted, everything dies to removal, but Ooze is like an automatic die to removal,
yeah,
right? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Unless you put it down turn three, they target it. But a smart player will wait until you use your mana to target it with the Heartless Act. But that's also a reason because the Heartless Act. So a lot of people thought that the use is pretty good against Mill, and it is pretty good against the Heartless Act. But still, I don't think that it's just as good as this build.
No,
Also, yeah,
this build is really it's consistent.
consistent.
It smacks around life gain. It smacks around clerics. I had a
Mhm.
problem. One problem. The only problem I had was with the black and white something or another. Um,
Yeah. It is pretty bad against like very board wipey decks. Like let's
yes,
say you're playing up against Doom Foretold deck,
yeah, because you can't
and
get
once they
going.
wipe the board, yeah, it's really hard to come back because if they, I mean, they're Yorion decks. I don't know what it is with Yorion decks on Arena, but they're way too consistent. They always draw what they need. Like if you're in 5 games, four out of 5 games, they will always have the removal necessary to destroy your creatures.
Yes, they
And
do.
yeah, they destroy your brush elemental, they destroy your mammoth, then you finally put down your questing beast, and then it's their turn four if they have Doom Foretold. And then from then on, it is really hard to have more than one creature on the board sometimes when they destroy all the rest or they wipe the board once. You may be overextended, and you don't always know what you're up against until turn three. So you see white, it could be anything. Then you put down black, and you say, "Oh no, it's Doom Foretold deck." So I think this is the one deck that's really hard to beat. Is Doom Foretold deck, unless they don't have a board wipe and removal.
Right.
Otherwise, it could be like a turn three or maximum turn four kill. That's very realistic.
You have
So
to
if you
be really
go
quick with
Edge
this.
Wall Innkeeper into Brushfire Elemental into Mammoth,
Yep.
turn four, you
Done.
have 3 mana available for the Ember Cleave. That is just so good. That is just so good.
Now,
So yeah,
here's my question: what do you think? Would going for Scrylands adding a Scryland or two and replacing a Great Hinge.
I really don't know. I really don't know. If I would replace the Great Henge with anything, it would be an Ember Cleave. But
Okay.
I think that refueling is way more important. To
Okay.
your first question, I think this deck would suffer a lot from Taplands. It
Okay.
would suffer a lot from Taplands because you want to do everything the turn it comes
Right
up.
away.
Even having a fabled passage on turn one can just be very heartbreaking. Let's say you have a fabled passage on turn one, you aren't able to play your Edge Warrior Keeper. It can be very bad for this deck.
Yeah.
So it is very aggressive. It is, as I said, between mid range and aggro, with a good top end to finish people up with the Ghost Dragon. And but I think that putting in Tapland would really hurt the deck.
Fair. That's fair. Why did you use the Arkan War over some of the other red gain control type cards that actually have a lesser cost? Because I rarely get
Uh,
to the until you're. I find that I bump into, and maybe I'm looking at it wrong. The 2 and 3 chapters, the second and third chapters, you can attack after once you're on your second on the second chapter because you're tapped too, right? Unless you have
but
like
the thing
Western
is,
Beast.
yeah, but the thing is, you can control something for 3 turns, or
Right.
let's say for 2 turns. That is pretty good.
Right.
That is totally worth it. And also, the second chapter is pretty good because let's say that we are a pretty chunky deck. We have pretty big booties here, like the Lovestruck Beast, the
Mm,
Questing Beast, even the Mammoth is a big booty if you have a Fabled Passage out that you can crack during their turn, and they have to attack in.
right.
And if they don't have the Vigilance, the next turn, the third chapter,
They
will
die.
trigger after your creature's untapped.
Yep.
So unless they have Vigilance, all
Oh,
of
it
the
triggers
creatures,
after.
yeah, it triggers
Oh,
after. So it
okay.
is untap, then you draw.
Fair, fair. Yep.
And
That.
that is why your creatures won't die. So only their creatures won't die, will
Oh,
die.
well, never
And
mind.
let's say that, yeah, let's say that you steal an annex, which is
Yep.
like my favorite target to steal. They attack in, and yeah, whatever dies, if you block with the annex, you even get something back for it. So that is pretty good. And I think that is the other spells are good, but they only target creatures with 3 or less.
Oh
And with
yeah.
this, you
Okay.
can steal whatever. So there's, for example, the red one that is always used in the Croxer deck, like Claim the First Form, exactly.
Right.
That
And
says gain
Robber of the
control of
Rich.
target creature. Yeah, but the Claim the First
Right.
Form, it only
Yeah.
works with creatures with power, with mana cost 3 or less. So
Ah.
let's say that they play a Questing Beast, you can't steal a Questing Beast.
Huh.
And you only seal it until end of turn. So that is a pretty good card if you have like a sack outlet.
Okay.
So if you have like I don't know, Witch's Oven, or you have like the Amateur Predator out, you can steal a creature, attack in, sack it to one of your creatures, sack it to the oven, sack it to the what's the black one called again, the ugly one that you can bring back from the graveyard. You know the 3 mana cost that says sacrifice creatures, scry one. I forgot
Yes.
the name.
I know what
Yeah,
you're
but
talking about.
it's from Theros, and it's also a pretty good card. But as I said, for this deck, the Pro War is way better because you even if you have the Questing Beast out, you can still attack in. And let's say on your second turn, you can attack it without any worries. If they block, it's all right, but
Right.
they will lose all of the creatures.
Yeah. So yeah.
Also, sometimes people forget that if you steal a creature with equipment, that the equipment is still theirs. So I had situations where I stole like a creature with a hammer, you know, the hammer that goes flying.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
Skyclave, I
Yep.
forgot the name of it, the Skyclave hammer.
Yeah.
And he didn't equip it on his other creature, so I could kill him with his own equipment. So that is the thing that people forget. Even if you steal the creature, the equipment is still yours. So
So
if I steal
the
your, if
creature
I
goes
steal
back, but the
your,
equipment stays yours.
no. What I want to say, if you steal a creature,
Right.
let's say I steal your creature and it has the equipment.
Okay.
Like, for example, during my turn, you can't do anything, but during your turn, you can just retake the equipment and put it back again on one of your other
And people
creatures.
don't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, some people just forget it, but I mean, Magic is such an intricate game that sometimes it's hard to keep up with all the rules. There's a lot
Yes.
of new players because of Arena, so yeah, a lot of people don't get the rules very good. But that is something that you will learn the hard way. But as I said, you can always re-equip the stuff back on the other creatures. But sometimes people just forget it. Sometimes you just have to play like nobody knows nothing, and then maybe you win. So it is always worth taking risk. But also, even if they do it, they have to spend the mana to do it.
Hmm.
So it's totally worth it. So the hammer costs 4 to equip. I mean, it gives the creature flying, first strike, and +2/+2. It is pretty good, but it costs 4 to equip. So if they use it during their turn just to equip one creature, and then it dies anyways to the Crow War,
Yes.
is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? I don't know, man. I really don't know.
It's the Magic is a this is a the whole game. The thing I like about Magic most is it's a lot of plus and minus. It's there's a whole lot of give and take, right? There's no
Exactly,
every
yeah.
deck's gonna get beat by something, so it's just what you're willing to get beat by. You have to accept that there's gonna be a deck that's gonna crush you, and it's just is what it is.
Exactly, yeah. As I always say, sometimes you eat a shark and sometimes the shark eats you, so that's just how it is. Sometimes there's also some unexpected stuff going on. Like I was playing Historic today for the first time since a very long time, and I saw some stuff where I said, dude, there's no way to play around this if you don't know that it all exists. So sometimes if you just forget one card or you say, or you even gamble, you just have to gamble sometimes. Can you
Hmm.
really always play around everything? Let's say they might have a counter spell, so is it worth to put down the questing beast? If they don't have it, you just have a big creature on the field, and it's just so good. So I think sometimes it's also a gamble. So there's some people that never play around anything; they just run into every single counter spell. But sometimes it's just worth to try to tickle out the counter spells or the
Hmm.
kill spells out of their hand. But it's also always something that you have to learn. So I think Magic. If I wouldn't be playing Magic every single day since the last 4 years now, since Arena came out, I think there's a lot of stuff that I would forget too. And yeah, there's a lot of good players out, but there's also a lot of people that I don't know how to make it to Mythic because sometimes they just do stuff that you're flabbergasted when they did it. But as you said, it's a give and take. It's a rock, paper, scissors sometimes where you have to be really lucky. But that is why best of three is also very interesting because you can just counteract it, but your opponent as well. So
Hmm.
everyone can prepare a little bit better for what's in front of them, but it goes both ways. So yeah, if you're up against a very controlling deck with this, can be really hard, but you put in maybe some smaller creatures that attack even faster. I've also seen builds where with the Robber of the Rich it is, but I think the Brush Fragment is just so much better.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
I wondered. I thought I was thinking that I was gonna since I made Mythic with this. Now I'm going to vamp it and make it more my style. Um, Maybe, or I might just leave this as is and completely make a new one because I'll never get this one again. You know what I mean? Once I get into the weeds, it's over. um,
Yeah, no, you can always copy decks, just just push a little button down there that says copy deck or
and get it
duplicate.
again
I don't
and
know.
make it again.
No,
Yeah, it's
no, you'll
online.
just and it's online on my EtherHub.
Right, it's
So
on
yeah,
your.
you
I
can
know.
always
I
check that out.
like. If I was, I think for my style, um, I'd go historic because I'm more of a historic player. I only went standard because I really, really enjoy this Kaladin build, and it has snow, and I was like,
Yeah,
I'm all in. Like,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
why? Okay, I know that Fire Prophecy deals 3 damage for 2 mana, right?
Hmm.
My question um, is there would it hurt this deck if I went with snow and used um,
Frostbite.
frostbite? Right, it's one because I really wasn't doing anything till 3 mana anyway for killing creatures, right? So if I use frostbite with one, that saves me two, even if I have 3 snow out there, right?
It
And
is it is a thought. It is worth a thought, absolutely. But I think what made me go Fire Prophecy instead of, for example, Dragon Breath, which is
right,
also very good because it exiles. So death triggers, don't trigger. So for example, if
mm-hmm,
you have an annex, you destroy the annex with the Scorching Brain Fire. That just doesn't do anything.
disappears.
It
Mm-hmm.
just the creature is gone. They get no tokens and nothing. But what I think why the Fire Prophecy is very strong in this build is because of the possibility to exchange a card.
Yeah, I
Because
thought about that
sometimes
too.
yeah, that is very good. And also the card gets back into your deck. If you crack the Fabled Passage afterwards, it's somewhere in your deck, not on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sometimes you draw just too many lands, and so I think the Fire Prophecy is really good in here.
Hmm.
I mean, it only deals 3 damage for two, but it
It's not
is it is
bad.
just so good. It is just so good.
It is real.
It
It's
is
not
just so
bad.
good.
I like it. It's well balanced. I looked at some of the other builds and I was saying like he changed like 2 cards, but it flows so much easier or smoother. You don't have
Yeah, it's because of the meta. It's because of the meta. So watching the meta, and there's not that much need right now for not for exiling creatures.
mm-hmm,
Like when there was more rogues out, like every second deck that you encountered was rogue deck. the Scorching Dragonfire was the way better choice.
Right.
Even if you didn't have to card draw anything, but just making sure that those ropes are done forever,
Mm-hmm.
totally worth it. But right now, or you put in like the scavenging moves just for your ropes. But I think no matter what you do, even if you target one of your creatures and they are like a control deck, and you just shoot a fire prophecy on one of your own creatures,
Yeah.
it's still totally worth it.
Yep.
Or let's say that you have a Brushfire Elemental out and they target it with the Bone Crusher Giant. You just shoot the Brushfire Elemental with your own fire prophecy.
Yeah.
They lose the Bone Crusher Giant because the spell will fizzle. So that's also something that's kind of, I mean, it's out there. It's not like you should do it every time. But if you're low on cards, it's something that you could consider. So I think the Fire Prophecy with the actual meta right now is pretty good. And that's also why I had another build where I had the Snakeskin Balin. And I decided to take Snakeskin Balin out because it was only a 2 or a 1-off. Because it's very hard to take something out of this deck. So I think the Inscription of Abundance does the same job for 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have 5 mana, it is just insane. Because you put the 2 counters, creatures fight, you get life back. It's just a game changer. And if you put it on a Goldspan Dragon, whatever you do, if you target the Goldspan Dragon with one of the 3 modes,
it gives you 2 more mana.
You just get 3 mana for it, and that's just so good. That is just so good. The Goldspan Dragon is just a perfect card. It's just I will play it until the end of days. It's just
the Goldspan Dragon is I have a blue and red, I forget what the color combination's called.
Yeah.
But I have a blue and red, and so somebody targeted my Goldspan, and it gave me the 2 mana that I needed so I could counter.
Exactly. It is so freaking good. Also, if you have Mystic Reflection or something, you put it on the Goldspan Dragon, it pays for itself. And that is so freaking crazy. I see the build by Mono Black Magic where he had like the Moral's Epiphany, the one that gives you an extra turn.
Yep.
And he had the reflection, Mystic Reflection.
Oh!
So he targeted the Goldspan Dragon with Mystic Reflection. Then he played the Moral's Epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
He made the 2 birds, and because of the Mystic Reflection, those 2 birds became Goldspan Dragons.
Nice.
And so it's just, you pay 6 mana that you get instantly back. You just get it back immediately. So it just pays for itself. The Goldspan Dragon is one of the most value engines there is right now for red. And I totally get that each red deck tries to play it. It is just so good. Also, the Teamer Ultimatum decks. I always forget the name of the Ultimatum, but the one where you look at the top 5 cards and you put as many
Genesis Ultimatum.
Genesis, exactly. Whole day I was looking for the name. So the Genesis Ultimatum is also so freaking good. Let's say that you're a red deck, and on turn 4 you're able to play your Goldspan Dragon. Turn 5 you're able to play your Ultimatum.
Yeah.
And having a turn 5 Genesis Ultimatum is just insane. That's why
it's not fair, but it's awesome.
Best card. It is fair.
I joke that the I Stole Malone deck got me through. I went from gold or silver, whatever. No, gold. Yeah, I went through gold and half a platinum using the I Stole Malone deck.
Yeah, the one, the Teamer, like the one I was just saying, Genesis Ultimatum.
Yeah, with the Genesis Ultimatum. I have a few decks with Genesis Ultimatum in it because I realized with World Tree, because I play green a lot anyway, I realized with World Tree, I can have a bunch of ones of some really cool crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
If you have to go 3 out with Masswood Nexus, it is just so freaking good.
Oh, man.
And then by the Goldspan Dragon there is also so good. You get to 10 mana so freaking quick. It's not even funny.
And there's that one. I made a green deck, and I got the Maxwood Nexus, and I got the Nyx, NYX, NYX. It's 4/2. No, it's 3. But it makes, it's the one where it gives you as much mana according to whatever your devotion is.
Oh yeah,
it's
Nyx Lotus.
Nyx Lotus or something like that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
really nasty.
It is.
I ended up because you'll have 12 hanging out there real quick.
Yeah. Exactly. It is also very good in the blue devotion decks because you will have so much mana available and it's just so good.
Right.
And if you draw half of your deck, then you play the Tessus Oracle and then GG. That's just GG. But yeah, for this deck, I think this is a very good build if you want to rank up into Mythic.
Yep.
With this, it's absolutely possible. Maybe you will lose 2 or 3 games in a row sometimes if you're unlucky. But I think my win rate is very good with this deck.
Yeah, you were undefeated.
At least at least 30 to 40 games, and I think I'm around the 60 to 70% even in Mythic. And
Nice.
yes, sometimes I'm not that concentrated when I'm playing evening, but yeah, it's still pretty good.
I have five
So
losses that are user error. Five losses were completely my 100%. I'm looking at the card. I know I know what I should do,
sometimes your brain just farts,
and
and
you do
then
something
just
different. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
I should
happens.
kill
It
this
happens,
one.
man.
Nah, I'm waiting to see what happens. But user error, it happens. I'm not trying to like you. I think aren't you one of those people who go to the whatever the mythics blah blah blah? Like you guys, you're like 98 or 99%, right?
Right now, because of all the jank that I'm building for the channel, I'm only at 92 most of the time. So I vary from 91 to 92, and sometimes I try to rank in evening, and I come in numbers. I'm the top 1,200. Then I say, okay, now I can play test my deck. And playtesting jank is really freaking hard. As you said in the beginning, you try to find something that beats all the other decks,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it just doesn't work because you want to make hard work that is so freaking janky but so fun. It
Right,
is just very, very hard, very hard.
right.
Like, yeah,
I will show you my jank.
absolutely,
I want to
absolutely.
thank you for this information. I think it's great. I want
A
people to
pleasure, man.
understand why there's no one that explains why they build their decks like they do. You know what I mean? I mean, you give a great you say what it does, but I like to get more into the details because now I understand more the meant what you were thinking behind it, which makes me be able to play it better. Because now I'm actually going to keep the Great Hinge because I read
Yeah.
it. I read the second part. Whenever a non-token creature is, I read that. Don't get me wrong. And to draw a
You know,
card.
it is so much text, sometimes you just forget what it exactly does. It happens to me as well. You know how many times the warrior text went out and I put a Mugen out and I was like, oh damn, I'm so stupid. I'm so
Right.
stupid. So yeah, it happens. It happens, man.
Right.
Sometimes you're just so eager to play your card and
Yeah.
it just happens, man.
So
But as
I,
I said, turn four great hand is one of the best things that can happen to
it
Green.
is, and I've had the chance to do it, and I don't do it.
Absolutely do it.
Yeah, I will
Every
from now.
time you
I
will
will
see.
from now on because I saw it gave me 2 mana, but I'm like, I got a ton. You know what I mean? Like, um,
Yeah, I get it. I get it as well. Sometimes if the choice is to get in for more damage next turn
yeah,
or to play the Great Hand, sometimes doing more damage could be better. So it's always you always have to analyze the situation, what deck you're up against. But I think
well, that was the interview with Matches Malone. The audio issues were mine and mine alone. It will be better the next time. You can find Matches Malone on MTG Malone on YouTube. All his stream information and everything else will be in the details. Once again, thanks for listening. Subscribe. Peace.